Before I offer you my emotions and my opinions, let's just get it out of the way. Tiki Barber, do your Dodger tirade. You knew it. You predicted it. They're the Dodgers. Go ahead. Just
if
get it out
there's
of your
anybody, especially coming from Japan, if there's anybody who the Dodgers might just even slightly need, not like desperately need, but because that's obvious, but just slightly need, they're going to L.A. Why? Because L.A. gives you a chance to win. They're going to pay you whatever you want to be paid, or maybe not whatever, probably slightly above your best offer.
Yep.
And ultimately, you're going to go out there. We did the math on this, and look, this isn't fair because what Guggenheim Partners has under management, assets under management, is not all related to their investments in sports franchises. But just for context, Guggenheim Partners has $350 billion under management. And so we sit here and we talk about, well, they're going to pay 110% on every dollar that they pay Kyle Tucker. Their payroll is $340 million or something like that. They're going to have to pay $160 million in payroll tax or whatever it is. So maybe it's just under $500 million. That's like 0.08% of the assets that Guggenheim has. So it's money. I know they have a favorable TV deal as well, one of one in all of Major League Baseball. They make a ton of money because they've won back-to-back championships, and they're the LA Dodgers, for Christ's sakes, and they dominate the Japanese market. So all of that revenue comes into this team, meaning they can spend whatever they want. They're going to keep winning and keep taking all the best free agents until this changes. That's just a fact.
All right. And I'm sure there'll be a day to break down the changes and baseball's broken and the salary cap, blah, 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 blah. Everything you said is right. It's why I feared the Dodgers. It's why you predicted the Dodgers. No one is surprised this morning or last night that Kyle Tucker is an LA Dodger. How I feel as a Met fan is I am pissed.
Why?
Now, am I pissed at this? I'll explain why. Am I pissed at Kyle Tucker going to the Dodgers? No. Am I pissed at the offer they made to Kyle Tucker? No. The Mets made a real offer. The Mets made an offer that you yesterday said was absurd.
It's true.
The Mets made an offer
and
that
it was worse than I thought, by
worse.
the way.
It was further.
They were giving him 70-something million as a signing bonus.
And they were offering him a front-loaded deal. The Mets offered Kyle Tucker $60 million next year and $60 million the year after that. And I know what would have come with that. We would have argued, is he worth it? You're paying him more than Soto. I get it. And I believe the Mets made a real offer. And I believe that this wasn't a Will Pawnee, it's not a real offer, we're just trying to get good publicity. Like, I don't believe any of that. I believe the Mets thought they had a chance to sign Kyle Tucker. And so I thought the contract offer was fair. I thought it was aggressive. I'm not mad at Steve Cohen and David Stearns for their pursuit of Kyle Tucker. Not at all. I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised. I kind of felt if the Dodgers came close, he'd be an L.A. Dodger, and that's exactly what happened. My anger and my pissed offness is the situation we're in.
Which is
what?
You
Look at the team.
You are stuck with an inferior roster than you had a year ago.
I am stuck off an 82, 83 win season. I've already forgotten the exact win total. Doesn't even matter. With a team that lost Pete Alonso and his stick and have not replaced him. Now, I'd argue they've replaced Brandon Nimmo. Jorge Polanco puts up similar numbers. They've replaced Jeff McNeil. Marcus Semien could very well be better. But Pete Alonso, who was clutch last year, who drove in 1 billion runs, who offered protection for Juan Soto, I haven't even mentioned homegrown. I'm past that. They haven't replaced him. They tried with Kyle Tucker, and it was a gallant effort.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll give you your little ribbons. Good effort. What I'm mad about on January 16th, and I do think in this regard I speak for most Met fans, is that where are we? What is this team a month away from spring training? Where do they pivot to? How are they competing? Forget what the Dodgers. We all know the Dodgers are better. How are they competing with Philly? How are they competing with Atlanta? How are they making the postseason? So my anger today, and I hate to tell you this because I really don't like going backwards. My anger today is you could have brought Pete back. My anger today is you could have signed Kyle Schwarber. My anger today is more about that than it is Tucker, because if we're being fair, and I want to be fair, they tried to get the player.
Right.
They made an obscene offer to Kyle Tucker. And the only argument a Met fan can make today, and you can make it if you want, is they should have been more. It shouldn't have been 60. It should have been 70.
But
sure.
I don't think it would have mattered. It feels like it wouldn't have mattered.
Maybe not.
Because we heard all, for the last week plus, because there was a lot of noise around Kyle Tucker, but the noise was Toronto and the New York Mets. Mm-hmm. And the Toronto Blue Jays offer was for 10 years. He wanted length. And now maybe the AAV is significantly down, $40 or less $million per season, but it was 10 years. We know that he wanted length and longevity, and the Mets weren't willing to do that. But right. The AAV was huge. We talked about how you were paying a tax to have a shorter deal for Kyle Tucker, and that was what we thought. Yeah. Toronto and the New York Mets. And I know maybe he didn't want to play in Toronto.
I don't think he did.
He didn't, but look, Toronto made a lot of moves this offseason, right? They've had a lot of signings this offseason or trades. And so Toronto is what it is. Plus, they were in the World Series a year ago.
Right.
So they give you that also chance to win. The Dodgers do what the Dodgers do. They just sit and hold back and play coy and just ultimately decide, all right, oh, that's the best offer you've gotten? How about this one?
Yeah.
Is that good for you too?
Right.
You need an extra $5 million. Okay, is that good for you? So they poach the best offers for the free agents that they need.
Yeah.
And they needed a corner outfielder.
Yeah, they actually did. I mean, they don't need anything, but they could use it, I guess is the best way to define it.
I mean, they had league average players playing the position last year. So it is what it is. But if you can upgrade and you don't really got to put in tons of work, you just kind of come in at the end and say, all right, we'll give you a little bit more. Right. We'll defer $30 million. So you got, this paycheck coming well after you've left us, or we'll sign you. It depends on what happens.
So your point
is
that there's nothing the Mets could have done.
There's nothing the Mets could have done. If the Mets would have went up to $65 million AAV, the Dodgers would have done it.
And the other thing the Dodgers had over the Mets, and this is why for weeks, whenever I talked about this, whether it was you or on the Rico, I never believed they would get him, is that if it's close with the Dodgers, not only can they just not make it close and outbid the Mets,
right,
but they offer a better situation.
Yes.
They're everything we're not. Like Kyle Tucker goes to L.A., he's in a better lineup. He's on a better team. He is guaranteed to play in the postseason. He's not guaranteed to play in the postseason with the Mets. He's just not. So the Dodgers always had that edge, which is why, look, there are different ways we could approach this, Met fans, today. You could very well call up, argue with Tiki, and say Cohen should have offered more. Mm-hmm. If he's really Steve Cohen, if he's really the king, why not $70 million a year? The reason I'm not engaging in that is because what's the end? At what point? Like, should they have offered $90 million a year? Yeah. I mean, they made an obscene offer for Kyle Tucker. They did not get him. That's option of irrationality number one. Option of irrationality number two is to claim this is all a smokescreen and they weren't actually trying to sign Kyle Tucker and all Steve Cohen cares about is a casino. I'm past that. I don't buy that crap.
No, that's not true.
Here's what's going on, in my opinion, and you don't have to like it because I don't.
Well, it could also be true.
What?
He cares about the casino.
I'm sure he cares about the casino.
It's also true, but it's not why nothing's happening with the Mets.
I'll ask you this way. Did the Mets try to sign Kyle Tucker?
They absolutely tried.
It was a legitimate try?
Of course it was.
Okay. So then stop right there. They didn't get him. They tried.
It was almost a done deal.
It felt that way?
Yes.
It felt like they had a real chance to get him. The other irrationality we can have is that this was all a smokescreen. They didn't really try. I don't believe that. Mm. Where I'm at now, and I'm going to give it a few more minutes before we jump into it because we need to react to Kyle Tucker, my reaction is, now what are you going to do? Because that's what this entire offseason has been. When they lost Pete Alonso, my reaction is, what are you going to do about it? Where are you pivoting? All year we've said they're making a painting. Let's see what the final painting looks like. Well, right now it's tough to imagine that the final painting is going to be a Picasso. But here's what I think is going on right now with David Stearns and Steve Cohen. And you don't have to like it, but I think all the evidence points that this is the case. They are willing to spend. Mm-hmm. If you're going to call up today and say David Stearns is a small market GM, I think you're wrong. He offered Kyle Tucker $50 million a year. The problem is, and it's hurting the Mets right now, is they don't go long-term. They have not gone long-term with a single free agent outside of Soto and the offer they made to Yamamoto. That's not what they do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's changing today. I don't think Steve Cohen is going to see angry tweets and say, let's go 7 years for Cody Bellinger. They have a strategy of short-term high AAV. That's their strategy. And so far, it hasn't given us any fruits.
Yeah. No, you're
right. So
it's
frustrating because I get their strategy. I know why they think it. But if you want to add players, Tiki, sometimes you got to get uncomfortable.
Well, you do have to get uncomfortable. And maybe you do go to a ridiculously high AAV, even if it is a short-term deal, or you buck the trend. They bucked it for Juan Soto, obviously, because he's here forever, Juan Soto. But is it just limited to the Juan Sotos of the world? And again, to me, this feels like an age thing. Juan Soto was the right age to get that kind of deal.
He's also better.
And he's better.
Yeah.
Let's face it. But Kyle Tucker, while good, is not Juan Soto. And he's 29 years old this weekend. And so if you're giving him a long-term deal, you're going to maybe regret it on the back end. I don't think you're regretting it on the back end of Juan Soto. I don't think you regret it on the back end of Yamamoto because he was also young. And by the way, that's another example of the Dodgers just swooping in at the end and saying, hey, here's a little bit more. And by the way, you're going to win. And you'll be an icon.
Oh, and you'll be a World Series MVP.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, like we know what the Dodgers are going to do. And so if you are the Mets or really any other major league team, you have to fear that. And so there has to be always a plan B. What is your plan B? They don't have a positional plan B for Kyle Tucker. The pivot's now got to be we got to make ourselves one of the best pitching teams in the National League.
I do,
and
have,
that's easier said than done. But what other pivot is there?
I have a pivot. I'll unveil to you at 11 o'clock. I've been working very hard on it. I have a fair Met pivot. Now,
Don't tell me Cody Bellinger because they're not going 7 years.
I will tell you what it is at 11. Don't get it out of me. I have it all written down, all figured out.
All right.
And I want to remind you when we get there, pivots are not your first option. So don't argue with me, this isn't as good as this or this. Of course it's not. What bothered me this morning when I got the news, because I didn't get it last night, I went to sleep early. And the reason I went to sleep early is all freaking Steph Curry's fault. I wanted to wake up early to watch Knicks Warriors West Coast. I knew I couldn't last till 1 a.m., so I figured I'll go to bed by 9:30. I'll wake up at 4, and I'll watch the Knicks game. So that's why I didn't know last night, nor did I do a Rico until this morning. But when I woke up this morning and I got the news, and by the way, do you want to hear how I got the news?
How did you get the news?
I have audio. Ladies and gentlemen, I received a voicemail that I checked. First thing I checked in the morning, this was the voicemail. Here we go.
It's 11 o'clock. I've tried calling you. I've tried texting you. I'm sorry to break the news, but Kyle Tucker is a Dodger, and I'm pissed. Let's do a Rico.
Wow. That is Pete Hoffman, who just had more words on our show than the Carton show.
I was going to say, we finally heard from him.
So that's how I got the news. And it took me 30 seconds to go from the disappointment of not getting the player to being pissed off that they weren't more aggressive at keeping Pete Alonso. And I know that's irrational, and I know we need to move on from Pete. I'm just being honest that the reason you're not hearing me scream about the offers to Tucker or they weren't aggressive enough to Tucker is because that's not true. They were. The mistake was, and here's my question to David Stearns and Steve Cohen, who will never appear on this show. Here's my question. If you were willing to go to an absurd AAV with Kyle Tucker on a short-term deal.
To the point where you were giving him, in 2 years, $30 million less than Alonso got in 5 years.
Right. And you were willing to give him more than Juan Soto.
Yeah.
While I agree.
AAV-wise.
AAV. While I agree Kyle Tucker is a better all-around player than Pete Alonso, you can't tell me he's double the player. So if you were willing to go to $60 million for Kyle Tucker, why didn't you offer Pete Alonso $40 a year? And again, not 5 years. I'm meeting in the middle, Stearns. You don't want to give him 5 years. Fine. We made a deal.
Right.
2 years, $90 million. Now, before you tell me, Evan, that's absurd, $45 million for a broken down first baseman, you just offered $60 to Kyle Tucker.
Right.
So my anger this morning, when you say, why are you angry? I'm not angry about losing Kyle Tucker. I'm angry about the fact that we're in this position to begin with, and I look back at the misses from earlier in the offseason, and I wonder why.
But don't you have to now just accept that the New York Mets wanted to change their clubhouse? And that even if it was painful, they had to do it. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not even justifying it, but it feels like we got to revamp the core. I know it sucks. We got to get rid of Pete. We got to get rid of Edwin Diaz. We got to get rid of Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. We got to get rid of all those guys, but we got to remake the core of this clubhouse. Something is just not right.
Yeah, and
they were committed to that. They were steadfast on that, and regardless of the emotions around Pete Alonso and they didn't even give him an offer.
Well, that's my anger.
So it's clear that they had moved on in their heads.
But that's my anger. If you weren't going to go to 5 years, which they never were, and I'm not even arguing
about the offer. It's about the decision to move on from all of those guys.
Well, so where I would counter with you is, sure, I understand. Forget about locker room issues. It's not even that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you just want to say underachieving, which is fair enough. The
Which
Mets,
they did, by the way.
They historically underachieved a year ago, and even 2 years earlier, they underachieved. And the year before that, they had a great year and collapsed at the end. If you even wanted to go through that and say that's why I needed to change the team, okay, fine. You've sold me on Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien. You got me.
83 wins, by the way.
83. You've convinced me. I get Nimmo for Semien. You can't convince me walking away from a slugger and not even making an offer.
Yeah.
So I apologize to everyone in the audience for bringing up an old story, but I'm being honest with you. I'm not angry this morning about Kyle Tucker. I'm angry about the situation we're in. But I do want to be positive. I received it, and this is right up your alley, Tiki, before we get to your calls. This is for you. I received an email from Sean from Texas. And Sean wanted me to inspire Met fans by going and doing a speech to my fellow Met fans. So give me some music. Give me some mood music. I'm going to quote Winston Churchill.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Is this starting with my fellow Met fans?
What?
Are you starting with my fellow Met fans?
My fellow Met fans.
There you go.
We shall fight in the National League. We shall fight in parks and in the fields. We shall fight on ingrowing confidence and growing strength in our prospects and pitchers. We shall defend our place in the standings, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight in the trade market and in the waiver claims. We shall fight in the overseas market and in the draft. We shall never surrender. That was Churchill.
That sounds like Churchill.
Did that inspire anybody?
Where's Mike Tyson? Hit you in the jaw and say, I got to change the plans now.
We'll get to your calls next, your reaction to this, 888-808-1019.